These are in listen-only mode.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us for this week's and today's second session. I hope many of you were able to join us for Michael Bungie-Stanier's session earlier today. It was a fantastic session, very well received, slightly controversial in parts, but the feedback was excellent. Thank you so much for that. Now, before I do anything, as always, I would like to ask if you can raise your hands in the air to let us know that you can hear us okay. That would be super. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to put your hands down now. Thank you. We encourage you to engage and interact with the session. Please feel free to ask any questions you have. This is a very, very important subject area, and one that will certainly affect your coaching. So please be sure to, any questions or any roadblocks, anything at all that comes up, please post that in the chat box on the right hand side. Please, if you have any learnings or anything like that, we encourage you to share them on Facebook. There's a site, facebook.com/WBECS. And also, if you're on Twitter, then you can jump to Twitter, twitter.com, and post with the hashtag WBECS. Now, I would like to introduce our three guests, and we have a very distinguished lineup for you today. Three of the heads of the largest coaching organizations in the world. I'm going to begin by introducing Damien Goldvarg, who's a global leader on leadership development. He's a PhD in MCC and has 20 years of experience in executive assessment and coaching, leadership development, talent management, facilitation, strategic planning, and team building. He is originally from Argentina and has extensive experience working with people from different cultures and social backgrounds. He has worked with individuals and organizations in over 40 countries, offering services in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And he is the current global president of the International Coach Federation. So great to welcome Damien. Now, secondly, we have Catherine Tolpa. Now, Catherine is a pioneer global leadership coach. She has worked with CEOs, boards, and multicultural top teams worldwide. As CEO and co-founder of the Association for Coaching and co-founder of Wisdom 8, a board-level international coaching practice, she is a leading authority within her field, as well as a speaker, mentor, coach supervisor, and author, including contributions in excellence in coaching. Oh, sorry, she's had contributions in excellence in coaching, leadership coaching, and diversity in coaching. As a dual EU US citizen with an international business background, Catherine has also coached senior leaders and their teams from over 30 different nationalities and is recognized by her peers. She has won a number of awards for her thought leadership and influence in her quest for coaching to become a sustainable profession and make a bigger impact in the world of work and in turn society. Finally, last and not least, we have Lise Lewis, who is a executive coach to business leaders, managers, international coaches, and teams on a national and international basis. Lise Lewis works in partnership with clients as an executive coach, focusing on energies for development, building confidence, and achieving change through challenge and reflection for individual growth and business improvement. She brings operational excellence experience as a leader, a strategic change practitioner, and a career in people development. Her coaching philosophy is that individuals hold the key to their success, and her role is to support their journey. And the feedback from clients confirms that coaching with Lise has made a huge and significant impact on their learning and performance with life-changing experiences. And Lise is the current president of the EMCC, European Mentoring and Coaching Council. So without further ado, I believe I am handing over to Damien, or possibly
I
Catherine.
think
No, you're
Lise
handing
is
over
on
to
Lise,
Lise.
over to Lise. Sorry, that was a bit I didn't have written down. Sorry, over to you, Lise.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome to our session. The session is presented by Catherine Tolpa,
the CEO of Association for Coaching, Damien Goldvarg, the Global President of ICF, and myself, President of the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. And what we'll do in this session is to provide you with a brief overview of our organisations, what research is showing about the importance of professional bodies for the professionalisation of coaching. Then we'll give you information about how the GCMA was created and why, followed by our agreed objectives, shared values and guiding principles. As the GCMA is newly formed, this is an ideal opportunity to include everyone's ideas from the start about what you'd like to see us doing. So we're going to welcome input from you at the end of the session. We'd also value you think GCMA can contribute to the coaching profession. So that's what we're going to cover this afternoon, and we really want you to engage with us. So I'm going to hand over to Catherine now, who's going to do a brief introduction for the Association for Coaching.
Thank you, Lise, and hello everyone, no matter where in the world you're dialing in from. I'm actually based in London. So it's really an honor and pleasure to be here and to be speaking amongst my colleagues, Lise and Damien. It's been a wonderful journey to date, and we're looking forward to having you on the call and hearing your input near the end of the call around what you're hoping for from the GCMA. I've been asked to say a few words about the Association for Coaching for those of you who might not be familiar with it, so I'll keep it brief. We're now, as of next month, we'll be celebrating our 11th year anniversary as an independent professional coaching body. And it's been a wonderful journey to date. And I think always a testament to how we're performing is to actually go out to our members and ask what they see in the AC. And for me, a testament is, I just remember not too long ago when we set out on our journey 11 years ago, and as you do, you set out the objectives and the values of what you're looking to do and what you're looking to achieve and the values to behaviors to live by. And I'm really pleased to say, I think I'll just say a few words about what our members are saying around what the AC is about, because that's probably the better way rather than me telling you. And it very much speaks to the heart, and it speaks to our values, and that I think most importantly, or one most important thing, we are about professionalism. And the way I like to describe the Association for Coaching is kind of being a combination between both science, the science of coaching, as well as the practice of coaching. And that's really, really important to us in terms of professionalism and excellence and really keeping a high bar. There's a number of initiatives and things that we do around the area of excellence and professionalism. For instance, on the science side, we have an academic journal published in collaboration with Routledge, which is an international journal, and it goes out worldwide. It's a peer-reviewed journal about looking behind what is good coaching, as well as 5 published books on coaching. And we've just had with our publishing partner, Koging Page, and we just had a meeting with them recently that said we've now sold over 20,000 books worldwide, which is really a delight to see, because for us it's helping to educate the marketplace around best practice. So that's a few bits on the science side. On the practice side, it's really important to us as an inclusive body. We're not just a body for coaches, but a body for professional coaches at all levels, from just entering the profession through advanced masterful executive coaches, through to organizational membership with academic institutions with PhDs and masters in coaching, through a number of organizational members that are trainers of coaching and providers of coaching, through to corporate members. And that's really important to us, to remain a independent body that sits in the middle, that is around helping to professionalize coaching and looking at the needs of the different elements and stakeholders within our profession. So the corporate members are those that are the buyers of coaching. A number of initiatives, and I won't go into really many of these today because we don't have time, but I think what I would say is it's important for us to be very progressive as a body. We've grown through the years. We're now over 4,000 members in 40 countries, so we're really having a quest to really grow globally now, and we have been for a while, but that's our focus, and most importantly, provide value. So And to do that, to me, it's not just what coaching is now, is what actually coaching is becoming, and to stay relevant to the context of which we coach. So in this global marketplace that is becoming more and more complex, how do we as professional bodies stay current? And at its heart is to be collaborative and member and client led, which is the heart of all we do, and to stay strengths focused. So I'm gonna leave it there, and it gives me great delight and pleasure to actually introduce you to my colleague. I'm going to actually pass it back to Lise at EMCC. Over to you, Lise.
Thank you, Catherine, and hello again. So what about EMCC? Again, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to EMCC as Ben's requested. So let's start by letting you know that we celebrated our 20-year anniversary last year in Bilbao. And EMCC started life as the European Mentoring Centre. And 10 years later, in response to our growing membership, we added coaching and became the EMCC. So we're an international organisation with 20 affiliated countries. And we have a membership of over 5,000 and represented in 67 countries. And our membership includes academic, researchers, obviously individual coaches and mentors, and our corporate members, which we are focusing on more and more in recent times. So that means we're the largest coaching and mentoring organisation in Europe. And we have 3 accreditation processes. One is the QA for the accreditation of coach mentoring training programs, and that's at 4 levels. And we also have the EIA for accreditation of individuals, again at the 4 levels. And we've just launched the European Supervision Quality Award, which is for the accreditation of coach supervision training programs. So you can tell that standards and standard settings and quality in coaching and mentoring training, as well as those that practice, is uppermost in our agenda. We also have an international journal, and we're about to start on a book series, which we've invited members from all our countries, so to write in a variety of languages and bring different cultures to us. So we're very excited about that. And lastly, let's have a look at our vision. Well, our vision is that EMCC is the go-to body for mentoring and coaching. We have a strong base in research, and we wish to continue with that. And finally, we're an independent and not-for-profit mentoring and coaching professional body. So now I'd like to hand over to Damien, who's going to tell us a bit more about the International Coach Federation.
Thank you, Liz. And what I want to share is that I'm delighted to be here with both of you. I get to meet Catherine and Liz in London last year, and it has been a great pleasure working with both of you, and being here today in this panel is how we're going to be moving forward collaborating. Collaboration for the International Coach Federation is one of our most important values, and even building strategic alliances is one of our strategies. So being part of this is very important to us, collaborating and working with AC and EMCC, very important to us. So I am here in Minneapolis. We're having a board meeting this week. And the ICF, for people who are not familiar, we started in 95, 80 years ago, and we're dedicated to advancing the profession of professional coaching by setting higher standards, providing a certification for individuals and coaching training schools, and building a network of coaches worldwide. Right now, we have 21,000 members in 111 countries, and we're very pleased because last week we got to a very important milestone for us. We get to be 10,000 credential holders who hold ICF credentials worldwide, so we are celebrating that. And for people who are more interested in all of the different services that ICF provides to our members and to coaches all over the world, you can go to our website, coachfederation.org, and you will find, for example, in the About section, our research portal, where people can download many articles around coaching themes. We have a great, we have several publications, particularly our Coaching World is our magazine, comes up every quarter, and you can download them for free. It's a resource that is available to everybody. We have also global conferences. In the past, we have a big one and now we change the strategy, and we're going to have several global conferences all over the world. Right now, here in Minneapolis, after the board meeting, we have a conference in Minneapolis. This year, we also have a conference in Sydney, another one in Venezuela, in Caracas. And next year, we're planning to have a conference in Sweden, in Rio, in Brazil, at the end of the year. So I want people to pay attention to these opportunities to participate and get involved with the global community of coaches. We also have an event coming up in October that is going to be a targeted event focused on cultural competence. It's going to be in Washington, D.C., and if anybody is interested in this theme, it's going to be 2 days. It's going to be for a small group of coaches, and it's coming up October 25, 26. You can also find the details in our website in the events tab. We also have communities of practice with people interested in particular topics, and this is also not restricted to ICF members. So anybody who is interested in participating in discussions on issues around, for example, career coaching, global executive coaching. We have a network of Spanish-speaking coaches, Japanese-speaking coaches. We have a community practice on conflict management, on ethics. So these are some of the interesting conversations that people are having, and what is interesting is the global nature, because people from all over the world are participating in these discussions. So this is briefly about ICF. I can keep talking as my colleagues. We can keep talking. We're very passionate about our organization. We can keep talking for a while. But let me jump to the next section. And in the next section, something that ICF does is research, industry research. Every year we come up with a different piece of research. This year we just finished an ICF organizational coaching study. I had the pleasure to do a presentation for last week, so you can access to this presentation if you're interested. And briefly, what I want to do now is to share some comments about the 2012 ICF Global Coaching Study, because this gives us a little bit of background, what is happening in the global community and what are the key trends. The Global Coaching Study from last year was a second version of the same research than in 2007. And in this case, we have around 12,000 participants in the survey from more than 117 countries. There are different sections in the study, and if you're interested, you can download the executive summary in our website, thecoachfederation.org. Today, what I would like to do is briefly to cover the last part of the report that talks about opportunities and challenges for professional coaching. If my computer let me move to the next slide. Okay, here we go. And so you can download this report from our website. So a couple of comments to give some context to the discussion and the presentation that we're going to have about GCMA. For people who are not familiar, GCMA is Global Mentor and Coaching Alliance. One of the key learnings from the research that we have done last year is that most of the coaches who participated in the study, you can see that believe that being credentialed is vital. Our coaches, organizations, associations who are hiring coaches, they want to work with people who are certified or credentialed. As you can see in this graphic, 35% strongly agree and 41% somewhat agree about how that is important to have a credential, and that clients are requesting credentials when they are hiring coaches. So I think this is important in the context of the conversation we're having today. Now, when we ask people about the biggest obstacle in the future for professional coaches, the main one is untrained individuals who call themselves coaches. And we want to pay attention to that, because more than 40% of the coaches believe that that is the key obstacle for us to pay attention. The second one is the marketplace confusion about the benefits of coaching. And here is an area where I think that this alliance, working between the three organizations can work together in bringing more clarity about what are the benefits of coaching, and this is one of the areas that we are considering collaborating and working together. And other areas where market coaching saturation, coaches underpricing their services, but the first two were the main ones. And the biggest opportunities for the future, I think that, as you can see here, 36% believe that increasing awareness of the benefits of coaching will be very important and it's an opportunity. And credible data on return on investment will be the second one. So here we want to pay attention to how we can collaborate to come up with studies on return on investment, because the market is also requesting how we can measure the results of the work done with our clients. Now, I want to give just, we can keep talking for hours about the coaching study, but I want to just give like a brief update with a brief key issue that we want to have in consideration when we discuss GCMA and what are our goals and how we're going to be working together and hear your expectations. And I don't know if at this point, Lisa or Catherine want to make any comments about these big key learnings before we jump into Liz talking about the history of GCMA.
Okay. Well, I certainly think that there's opportunities for us, Damien, coming from this research. I realise that maybe it's slightly different in Europe in terms of some of the comments that are being made, in terms of coaches being more experienced, because there are some emerging markets in Europe. But overall, I think it's really excellent opportunity. And as you say, for us in GCMA to work together to bring that clarity. We can certainly do that, bring clarity to what coaching and mentoring means and what it can offer. And I think also on the return on investment, I mean, everyone's crying out for that. Everyone wants to know the benefits of coaching and mentoring and what return people have on their investment. But not only that, it's about also return on expectation, which I think that's maybe slightly easier for us to find the metrics for rather than the ROI metrics. Would you like to join anything, Catherine?
Yeah, I'm echoing from when we had our last meeting in Dublin, all of us together and sharing some of this really valuable research. I think this is a tremendous contribution by the ICF, Damien, and it's really helpful. This whole area around, especially in a more global context with the different markets or in different states of where they're at in coaching, but even in more established markets, this continued need, and it's been there since the start, is about, can you please help us increase the awareness of coaching so that it makes it easier for me to be a coach, or makes it easier for me to build a coaching culture. Many people get it, but I think what we can do together, there's opportunities. I think we can really together make a much bigger impact in this area. And I know that's some of the things we started discussing, obviously, in Dublin. Where does it make sense? And I think what I'd add to that is now, obviously with today's technology means, I think we can do this more strategically and actually more impactful. So I'm looking forward to the opportunities and what that could mean for us as a team.
So Liz, with that, would you like to share with us a little bit about the history of GCMA? You were the one who were there from the beginning, so.
I will indeed, and with pleasure. So hello again, everyone. So let's have a look at the when and the why of how GCMA came into being. So if we could have that first slide, Damien, that would be great, please. Thank you. So the first steps were from 2008. So EMCC has been informally meeting with ICF for at least 5 years. This has been during conferences primarily, when we've been in the same location together, when we've talked mainly about joint interests in standards and core competencies. So discussions with AC, EMCC and ICF were mainly in the UK through a forum called the Round Table. So this gradual sharing of thoughts and ideas, we believe, has created a growing trust and understanding between us. So moving a few years on in Madrid in 2011, where both the MCC and ICF were in the same location, we seized that opportunity to deepen and grow this relationship. There we engaged in a facilitated constellations workshop, And it was amazing how common our interests were in some parts, and with similar ethos in what we wanted to achieve. That same year in Paris 2011, as incoming president of the EMCC, and in response to feedback from our membership and an outcome from the Rainbow Convention in Cape Town, included in my personal portfolio was to encourage the creation of a dialogue network between professional bodies. The aim was to provide a regular space for sharing ideas for the benefit of all involved in mentoring and coaching. The ICF president was at the conference in Paris, and it was great to have this early opportunity to agree a diary of dates for regular discussions. So as you can see, an energy from us both was immediately generated for stronger cooperation. Can I have the next slide, please, Damien? So as an example, to illustrate this early cooperation, let me tell you briefly about the professional charter. Included in our conversations about joint working was the topic of self-regulation. This being an area that we could work on to enhance the credibility of professionalism in coaching and mentoring, as well as being of value to the community. Agreeing a code of conduct demonstrated, we believed, a willingness by both EMCC and ICF to understand each other's perspectives, agree a common language, and respect the needs of each other's membership. So the Code of Conduct has now been improved by the European Union in Brussels and appears on their website dedicated to self-regulated industries. So the Code has subsequently been renamed the Professional Charter. As the title, Code of Conduct, was being confused with Code of Ethics. If you look at the slide, you can see that the Code of Conduct was and is much more than that. So AC and SF Coach France have subsequently signed up to the Professional Charter, and we're obviously hoping others will follow. So finally, on our next slide in the development of GCMA, the Professional Charter was a critical development in demonstrating cooperation between professional bodies. And to continue the journey of the formation of GCMA, let's look at the further steps. During 2011-12, we were engaging in bilateral discussions. This was between ICF and EMCC and between ACF and ICF. Meetings were mainly about the process of working together and sharing thoughts on what we wanted to include in a bilateral working agreement. So moving on to bigger steps, having grown accustomed to sharing thoughts on a regular basis, during our usual conference meeting, this time with ICF in London 2012, we all realised it was logical, meaningful and desirable for us to move forward on a trilateral basis. Therefore, during 2012, we continued our discussions, and this time we were delighted to say between our three organisations, AC, EMCC and ICF, we started with naming ourselves the Coaching Bodies Dialogue Network and shared thoughts about our context for working and who our common audiences were likely to be. Then finally, the giant step forward in the formation of GCMA. As our dialogue continued and our relationship grew, we were ready at the EMCC Bilbao conference in November 2012, when all three professional bodies were present, to communicate to the coaching and mentoring community that we had actually formed what was now known as the Global Coaching and Mentoring Alliance, the GCMA. I remember we even performed an impromptu replacement of the letters YMCA with those for GCMA. Well, it seemed appropriate at such a groundbreaking time in the history of mentoring and coaching to celebrate through the medium of song and even contort our bodies into the letter shapes of GCMA. I think you got away with that one, Damien, at that time, but not to be continued. I'm not sure what picture that conjures up for you all, but I just wanted to show that how thrilled we were to join forces. We decided on the term alliance to define our cooperation and to demonstrate that we were not forming another organisation. We want everyone to know that Alliance members demonstrate no vested interest other than the good of the profession and its members. I've taken this timeline approach to introduce the creation of GCMA in the hope that you see we've taken care in developing this cooperation together with the intention of a sustainable working relationship well into the future. So thank you, and let me hand over to Catherine for the core objectives, joint values and guiding principles of GCMA.
Thank you, Lise. What a wonderful, just to kind of see that and hear it's a milestone. It really feels like a milestone, and it's really relevant, in terms of the timing of all this. our, emerging young profession is at a critical point. I think there's so much more to do, and this is a really critical time for us, and it just makes sense, and it feels right as well. I think hopefully you can get a sense from our conversations. We all have a huge amount of respect for each other and each of our collective bodies. So what I'm going to do in the next section is go through really more around our purpose and core objectives, as well as some of our values and guiding principles. And I'm really going to reconfirm what Lisa said, is about what we are is a collective set of coaching bodies. All of us are independent, not-for-profit professional bodies, and the aim of what we're looking to do with the GCMA is actually to be a collective. So it is really built upon with the aim of having a collaborative spirit with the purpose and actually having a set of initiatives where we can partner together, where it makes sense to partner together to make a difference to the coaching profession and to society as a whole. So in terms of our purpose, what we've agreed, which we agreed at our last meeting we came together in Dublin in April, is that we're really about professionalizing the industry in the field of coaching and mentoring, which is further defined as expressing a shared view of the practice of professional coaching. So that is really what we're setting out here to do in terms of GCMA. Whilst we all have our individual professional bodies, what we realize is that there is so much we have in common, so much. And so where it makes sense and where there is shared understanding is around this area of having a shared view of the practice of professional coaching. This is all what we're looking to do here. And the core objectives, very high-level objectives that we set for ourselves at this point, is to be a collective voice. And that's an important point here, the collective word, in that what we're looking to do is to clarify, so speak into it some of Damien's concerns and needs and opportunities that came out of the coaching study. We're here to help clarify, to help educate and strengthen the awareness around about our common ground for effective practice, as effective professional practice, to facilitate exchange and distribute information for all industry stakeholders about shared good practice. So, where coaching touches that impacts our industry, we're looking to facilitate and distribute and educate shared information around that. And not staying insular just within the coaching, but also to see what does coaching touch. And if you were to read all of the vision statements of all of the respective coaching bodies in the GCMA to date, you will see something in all three of our vision statements that says something about society. So what we're looking to do with this as a core objective as well is where can coaching have a wider impact? Where can coaching and mentoring have a wider impact on society? So I'm going to ask Damien if you turn to the next slide. As you do, when we came around the table, we all have our own respective values here at our organization. So what we actually decided is, what are the GCMA's values? So in this entity that we set up, what are we going to live by in terms of values and the behaviors that come out of that? And I think when we really discussed it in the room, we realized how important it is that we need to be courageous. If we're really looking to shift, we know this as coaches, all of us do, that we need to have those courageous conversations and be courageous in a productive way so that we can create a bigger gain together. Something fundamental that you'll hear mentioned a lot is how important it is for us to have collaboration, to all have an equal voice on the table, to work together in a real collaborative way and respect the shared inputs that come around that table, to act with integrity, to be respectful, to earn respect, and also to trust. And these are inherent to, we all felt representing this professional organization or professional entity. We're not an organization, I take that back, but the GCMA is important that we actually have a level of trust. If you could go to the last slide, please, Damien. And then what are some of the guiding principles that will help embody what we do? Well, this is hopefully not surprising, really, really important, is that we work in a way that is a coach approach. All those fundamental coaching principles around what coaching is about. So these are really, really essential to how we need to interact with each other, to welcome and honor all perspectives. We had a conversation how important it is for us as a global set of professional bodies, that a collective set of professional bodies, that we take a global perspective. And to do that, we need to take in and welcome all perspectives that we all can add to this to have a richer dimension to what we do. And as importantly, whilst we all may have individual perspectives on this and views, and that diversity is wonderful, when we come together with the GCMA to always put the interests of the profession first. That was crucial when we had our discussions, is what is best for the profession of coaching. And as going with that is not to remain or to be insular, to continue to be member and market driven in our thinking and progressive in our actions. The world is moving quickly, and we need to stay very, very close to our members and what the needs of our market are saying to us and the clients that we serve in that market. To synthesize, clarify, and communicate the elements and the importance of really strong communication, and to remember, and this is a point, because I think there was some confusion in probably one or two of our press releases that were put out. We're an alliance of professional bodies. We're not a body in itself, and I even had to correct myself in saying that we were an organization. We are an alliance that will be looking to do things together that makes sense to do things together. But we're not looking to become one super body. That's not the intention of the GCMA. Before I move on and ask a question really to the audience and everyone listening in, I just wanted to turn it back to Lise and also to Damien, if there's any inputs that I emphasize or anything else you'd like to say around this before we move on.
I think you did a great job articulating our thinking. The only thing that I want to add in terms of the history is I want to recognize the past president of ICF. When Liz was sharing, she was there from the beginning, but our past presidents, Giovanna D'Alessio, Ed Model, and Janet Harvey, they work very closely with the EMCC. So I want to recognize all of the work, and particularly also of our executive director, Magda Mook, who has been closely working with the other organizations. So I want to be sure that I recognize all of the work that they did to make this possible now. Liz,
Well
anything
done,
that you wanted to add?
Well, I was going to say, well done, Damien. That's absolutely true. That was great. And I'm glad you reminded us that there are a lot of strong ICF voices in there when we came into being. So, no, I think that you made the points for us, Catherine, on the guiding principles and our values. I also remember that conversation in the room about our values in terms of us all bringing ones from our organisations and then realising again the commonality between them all, and realising particularly on the courage one about, yeah, we wanted to get that voice together and say we truly are cooperating together, and we're very proud to be doing that. And it is about the growing profession and what we can do together to make that more positive and more acceptable and more valid to the community and more credible for all our members and everyone that's interested in mentoring coaching.
Yes, thank you very much. So at this point, it's absolutely an opportunity here, especially around one of the guiding principles is mentioned about being member and market driven in our thinking. You certainly have heard now a little bit about the history. It's early days for us, but certainly, this is a perfect opportunity, as I think Lise and Damien mentioned, for us to get your inputs about what are some of your hopes? What would you like to see from GCMA? We are listening, and it's timely because we're going to be going into our next meeting together in the summer. So we would really welcome and embrace any expectations, any thoughts, any views, any concerns you may have about what we mentioned, what we're doing here. So happy to take some questions.
Yeah. So
So Ben, maybe you can help us to see if you get some questions from the public and you can share with us what you are learning from them.
yeah, sure, that'd be great. So what I'll ask everybody to do is to please post in on the chat box on the right hand side. What are your expectations about the GCMA? What would you like to see happen? How would you like to see it supporting you, coming together, the value that it brings? And while you're doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to field some of the questions that we've had. So quite a lot of questions come through, and I'm going to put them out there to the coaches. Okay, let's have a look. One of the questions, I guess this would be to Lise, would be someone's asking, what is the reason for including mentoring within the Alliance? Given that mentoring is thought of being a content expert and a coach doesn't necessarily need to be a content expert. What's your thoughts on that, Lise?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Well, I think the mentors in the EMCC would feel excluded if we didn't include them. And we are the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, and we believe that they have a voice alongside of coaches. I mean, we do use the collective word coaching, and I have to remind myself sometimes to put mentoring in there. And I think the reason is that they're practicing in the same field as coaches, offering a similar service, and I don't think we've got the time here to talk about the differences between coaching and mentoring, or the sometimes, as people think, the blurring around the edges between the two. But certainly, as we are the EMCC, then we would obviously wish to include our mentors in this discussion. And I have to say, I've really appreciated, and I know everyone in the EMCC has appreciated, the warmth and inclusion that's been given by the ICF and AC in terms of embracing mentoring into the Alliance as well.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we've got an interesting question here, and I think this is going to go to all three of you, if that's okay. How do you see the issue of licensing in contrast to credentialing coming forth? So perhaps we'll start with Damien.
Licensing, like maybe around regulation, do you think?
Well,
the question we're talking about licensing?
Maybe in terms of like franchises. So you're buying a license to become a coach as opposed to being credentialed as a coach, if that makes sense.
I am trying to make sense of the question. I think that in terms of ICF, the position is that we are an independent credential body, and we are, I am not very familiar with licensing about buying the certification. I know that there are some bodies now that are coming up that we had some conversations at GCMA that they want to position themselves as providing some kind of licenses or some kind of offering or registries to coaches. And I think that that's important for people to be paying attention to that. And this is one of the ways that we can collaborate, at being a voice, at being sure that coaches are informed and the community is informed about the importance of working with people who have credentials from bodies that have a recognition, global recognition, such as the three bodies that we are here in this alliance. I don't know what else maybe Liz and Catherine would add to that.
Just before both of you jump in, let me give an example. Well, obviously, I've spent quite a lot of time traveling around the world. We spent quite a lot of time in China, and one of the things that we started seeing over there was that there was an increasing licensing happening of coaches, where coaches would come in, they'd spend maybe 48 hours training as a coach and becoming licensed as a coach. Which, as we all know, you can't become a coach in 48 hours. Someone can put a stamp and give you a certificate and say you're a coach, but really, it takes a lot longer than that. And there's a process of credentialing, for example, that all three of you go through. And I think that having that license in place personally, and having that as offer is potentially damaging, or in fact, it is damaging to the industry, because you have a lot of coaches that are not as well trained as they need to be. They've not got the credentials to be able to go into organizations, and the skills and abilities to be able to coach the way a coach should be coaching. So I think that's, from my perspective, that's one of the challenges with some of the licensing organizations out there. Do you have something
Well,
to add there?
yeah, well, I think that I think we all would agree that ethical standards and professional standards and high um, and quality of education and training is one of our priorities. And I think that our credentialing systems, the three organizations, are very strict. So I think that this is where we have an important role in the coaching industry to be sure that we provide these high standards. And I think it's part of also for us to be sure that we are clear to the community that these standards are need to be taken into consideration when coaches are hired all over the world. So this is part of our role as credentialing, independent credentialing bodies. I don't know what
Yeah.
we like to add, Catherine and Lisa, about that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all of that. And I think this is where the ICF research is so valuable, in terms of that obstacle has already been highlighted in terms of the threat, if you like, of untrained coaches coming into the market. And people that have gone through a qualification, have gone through a training, have gone through, as we call it, accreditation, they want to be distinguished and differentiated from those people, in terms of showing that they have got quality in their practice. That is what the membership are saying. And that's the reason that the professional bodies that you've got here today have started up their processes that they have, in terms of wanting to raise the quality in the market, wanting to show that quality matters, and wanting to show what that means. And I think, going again back to the ICF research, there is a strong role there for us as professional bodies to bring that clarity and to say, this is what it means to have a quality coaching experience.
Yeah, I'm echoing everything that's been said, and for me, it's raising the voice, as a in terms of what good coaching looks like. Yeah, so it's continuing to do all the stuff we're doing, but maybe in the area of education, I hope we always remain inclusive enough that we can give different perspectives. But I think there's a role here that we continue to do about what is a good, what does good practice look like, and that is why we have it, defined in our purpose, is sharing that views of having that professional practice. So I think the more we can educate and communicate, I think that's something as a GCMA we're all agreed upon, which hopefully will help some of these areas that you mentioned, Ben.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next question is this. And this has come from quite a few coaches who are perhaps not in any of the associations you're a part of, and that's: are you actively reaching out to other organizations or bodies as well, such as the International Association of Coaches, the Christian Coaches Network, the CCN, etc.? Is there any plan for that? And also, are there any, in terms of some of them being privately held versus non-profit, does that make a difference in terms of their association with it?
Well, Ben, we are working on that. We at this time we are just focusing on strengthening our relationship with these three bodies. Eventually, we are considering to look into adding other organizations. Probably they will be non-profit because our target is that. But we are now we are just discussing that. Eventually, I think that will be a possibility to engage other organizations. But now our focus is just to strengthen our relationships.
Just to follow on from that, um, I gave the example of China, and there's a lot of people who have asked, how global is the alliance? Now, I know between the three organisations, obviously, you represent very many countries, but often there is a Western model imposed on the other cultures. Is this going to be a Western stroke European model, or is this going to be a truly global initiative?
This is Catherine. This is something I know personally I'm passionate about, and I know we certainly have discussed it with GCMI. We are very much, we almost have global perspective on as one of our values. Um, it's very, very important. All three of our respective bodies are global professional bodies, and what we know, certainly in discussions, is how vital it is that we ensure that we actually um, um, really, really be open to the different perspectives that come in, different ways of working, and the strengths that come in from the different cultures, so that we truly can create something that is global. And whereas, yes, very conscious of the fact that we're from the West, you know, there is something really, really important if we really stay close to our members and the markets we're in, that we embrace the diversity of which we serve.
Okay.
I think we are all aligned on that, Ben. We are all committed to
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Fan-
absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, so here's an interesting question that I know is a lot of people are probably thinking, and that is there a single global coaching credential in the pipeline?
And I think that our credential systems is what make our organizations unique. So I think that we have a lot in common, I think, in our credentials in terms of what we are looking at, what we consider professional coach to demonstrate. But I don't think that we will come up with just one, only one for now. This is what I am thinking, what's happening now. That can may change. But for now, I think that our credentialing systems is what make us unique and different.
Yeah, I agree with that, Damien. Totally. We're not at that stage yet to say that there's going to be anything different to that. I think what is interesting is with the global perspective and looking at the emerging markets in Asia Pacific and the needs there, that it's helpful, I think, for us to think in terms of let's provide capability indicators, competency framework that people can work to develop their practice. You know, if we can get that message across in terms of wanting to be inclusive, wanting to raise standards, wanting to support people that are interested in developing their practice, I think we will have gone a long way in professionalizing what we do.
Catherine, do you have anything to add?
I think it is worth where it's at right now, and I think it's certainly worth continuing to look at that, because certainly that's something that is being requested. Um, I think that's one of these kind of discussions I think we have to make around the table and continue to actually look at that. Um, and it's probably not enough time to do that right now, but I think it might be useful to then something we can talk about at the next meeting about, you know, how it would be interesting to get what are some of the needs or what is coming out from some of our members around what their hopes are. So, but I think at this point, I think we're starting with where it's at and starting with things that would maybe be a little bit easier to do together.
Yeah.
With the thinking.
And I think I'd put the question back, Ben. Is this something that the people that are on this call would like us to think about in GCMA?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're wanting people to say to us. This is what we want from the GCMA. We don't want to be the ones that are second guessing what people might want from us. This is very much about a cooperation, not just between our three organisations, but also between all the people that are out there in the coaching and mentoring community.
And we're going to have the Facebook opportunity there to exchange questions. So we are going to be open to keep this dialogue going. So for people who are interested, then at the end of the share with you where to go so you can keep engaged in talking to us and in us sharing our perspectives and keep the conversation going. Willing to write us and keep this dialogue, I think will be a space for that too.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. After the call, there was certainly interaction encouraged on the Facebook group, facebook.com/WBECS. I'll tell you what, we'll probably got enough time for maybe two more questions, if that's all right with everyone. But if you don't have your questions, honestly, there's been so many questions not asked. It's fantastic. I think it's probably one of the most engaging sessions we've had so far with the number of questions. In fact, I can tell you. There's been over 200
Oh,
questions
that's
asked.
great.
Over
Oh, wow.
200 questions.
Great.
So,
Great.
so anyway,
Brilliant.
Let's get our agenda set for the next meeting.
That's great.
there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
So one of the questions that came up a few times was, is this coming from what coaches, originally from coaches themselves, or is it coming more from the corporate clients looking for that?
Can you repeat the question, please?
GCMA.
Okay, so the GCMA has this kind of, has the
Ben, I
GCMA,
didn't understand the question.
yeah, so has the GCMA come about as a result of what coaches think, or is this coming from the corporate clients themselves requesting this?
Well, I can.
I'll say a few words about that. My sense of that question is both. Certainly out in corporates, there, what I think we've been discussing, there's confusion out there. So I think, part of what we're looking to do is where are we common, where are we aligned, and how can we help clarify? You'll see that. So on the corporate side, from the HR buyers, they really, really want to get a sense is what does good look like, and actually, I'm not too sure, there's all these different bodies, and actually, what is good? Guys, can you decide what good is and just unify? So I think one of the voices was certainly from corporate, and I'm certainly coming from the market and the coaches. That's my view. What do you think, Lisa and Damien?
It's exactly the same. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same. I would say that the initial voice was from individual members saying, they wanted clarity, definitely. And what was the difference between the professional bodies? Those types of questions. Can we have a common set of standards? Can we have a common competence framework? These were the kind of issues that people had. And then the corporates were very confused. What makes good mentoring? What are we spending our money on? Can we have some guidance from professional voices in terms of, what does good coaching look like, and how can we differentiate in the market?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I agree. I think that at this point, maybe Ben, you want to ask our last question.
Yes, this is the last question, and I think this is an important one. And I've actually combined about three questions into one for this. How can a coach get involved in the alliance? And how can someone submit methodologies for the GCMA's review and feedback? So how can somebody, if you're passionate enough to step forward and say, okay, I would like to submit something, how does that work? Is there a process? Is there a procedure? And is there any opportunities for coaches to actually get involved in the development as this births itself?
That is a great question. And my first reaction is that we have only a few meetings. We started last year in Bilbao in Spain. We have a meeting this year in Ireland, in Dublin. We are going to have a call next month. We're going to be working on what projects we can work together. So we didn't even get there. But I think that once that we have some projects to collaborate, maybe there will be opportunities for people to participate in the projects. For example, one possibility could be doing a research project. So maybe getting people involved on that, or anything that can come up as future possibilities of projects where we can collaborate. Anybody who is interested, I think, will be able to engage. I don't know what is the reaction from my colleagues, Liz and Catherine.
Yeah, I agree entirely with what you've said, Damien. It's early days. However, we would really welcome that engagement. And I would suggest, in the meantime, until we've got some kind of process organised that any thoughts that anyone has, they please send them to us, any one of us, and we will share those thoughts and those questions, and that will inform how we move forward.
Absolutely. I'm going to take an action, which is that we'll set up a gcma at associationforcoaching.com email address, and we'll take that input and feed it in to the GCMA in some way. So we can go back and we can get input from our members in the market about that, and maybe that's something that the other two can do as well until we have a process. But I guess I just want to say I'd like to have a takeaway action that is really, really welcoming those inputs.
Great idea, Catherine, and we'll do the same.
Great.
We'll probably do something similar too.
Super, super. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so we have finished pretty much bang on time. What I would encourage you to do is to, as I say, jump on the Facebook wall. If you have any questions, I know there's lots of questions not answered. So please jump on the Facebook wall, facebook.com/WBECS sometime in the next day or so. And you'll have the opportunity to ask some great questions there and have them answered by some of the absolute leading individuals in our industry. So it's a big privilege and pleasure to have Lise, Damien, and Catherine join us. And I can tell you from first-hand experience, all three these people are extremely busy. All the time they have a very, very incredibly busy schedules, but at the same time they're always making time for their coaches, and they've done this and they're putting together GCMA because they are so passionate about our industry. So that's why we're very proud to be supported with them and aligned with them. So they're as passionate as we are. So anyhow, I am going to call this session to an end. And before I do, I would just like to encourage you to please check out the EMCC, the AC, and the ICF if you haven't already. You can see some websites there on the site in front of you right now. And finally, I would just like to give one huge thank you once again to Damien, Lise, and Catherine for a fantastic session and for taking the time to join us. So thank you very much to all three of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you
Thank
to
you,
everyone
Ben.
on the call.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
thank you.
Ben.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a big thank you to everyone who's joining us today as well, I should say, for on the call.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Most important thank you, So, okay, everyone, we'll take care, and I will see you on the Facebook wall, facebook.com/WBECS. Get your questions out, and we'll take care. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.